Well, isn't that good timing, eh? Good news at this point of the season. Who knew? This is today's Arsenal News Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal News Show. Just give you a heads up, this is a pre-recorded episode. The reason being, and I know that's 2 in 3 days, so I can only apologise for that. At least I'm in the usual surroundings as opposed to what I've usually been used to in train stations and stuff. I've had an event basically crop up on me that I completely forgot about and forgot to tell you about. And I was laying in bed last night thinking, what am I going to do? I need to be at the house by 8 and I need to do a show for everybody. I could not do the show, but there's been big news that's dropped and there's been a press conference. So I set my alarm this morning for 5:50 a.m. I've got up. It's still light outside. The missus isn't here. She's already gone, which is good. She had an early work start on Saturday, so I can talk loudly without waking her up. Less so the neighbours. And I was like, I need to do a show for people. I need to make sure they've got something. So here I am doing the show for you. Apologies, it's not live. There will be a chat box because it will be a live premiere that it goes out. But if you could leave a like, if you could subscribe, getting up at 5 a.m., 5:50 a.m. I'm not going to lie to you, it's 5:50. It's obviously not the easiest thing to do a show, but I didn't want to leave you in the lurch without one. And I know I'm taking a break in the summer as well in June. I'm taking a few weeks off. So I know I can afford one really early start to do a show for you. So I didn't want to leave you without one. So drop a like, subscribe. Let's say hello to people in the chat box. There's no one there, but I'm going to make some assumptions. Hello to Matt G, to Black Shine. We've got Steve Stone. We've got, this is bad, I'm forgetting people. Max Sibius. We've got Alex. We've got Paul. If I say Paul and Rob and Steve, that accounts for about 50% of our listenership, I think. So if I just say those three names, I think we cover across Wilson. We've got Claire. We've got Carrie Ann. We've got, I was trying to think of some of our female listener names as well. So, we've got loads of you in the chat box. Amesy, I'm sure, is there as well. I'm sure Owen is in the background somewhere doing something. He probably shouldn't. We've got Kirill, of course. I'm going to stop now because if I keep going and then people will get more and more annoyed that I've not read their name out, despite probably being in the chat box every single day for the last 2 years. So if I haven't read your name out, this was already a mistake and I already regret it and I can only apologize, but I'll read your name out tomorrow when I'm actually looking at the chat. You know what my memory is like. It's absolutely awful. Anyway, let's jump into things, shall we, and tackle today's stories. We start with William Saliba and the contract talks that are said to have begun. David Ornstein breaking this story yesterday. Of course, Arsenal have been very keen and very calm on the William Saliba situation, but we know that there has been plenty of noise surrounding Real Madrid, surrounding the French defender, and his potential future at the club also. So from a personal point of view, I think the timing of this news coming out is quite telling. Arsenal going out of the Champions League, all of a sudden, Saliba contract. It's not lost on me, the timing of this news coming out. That said, I did do a little bit of digging yesterday after this came out. I didn't necessarily get the sense that this was coming from a club point of view. So that's encouraging to me. It seems this came actually more so from a player side of things, from what I've done a little bit of digging around on. So that hopefully helps balance that superstition, if you like. But yeah, obviously, it's not going to be lost on me that the timing of this coming out and the going out of the Champions League is quite coincidental. But from the little digging that I've done, it does give me a little encouragement that wasn't indeed the case. But yes, that's kind of where I'm at on Saliba. But overall, if this is something to be done, it's great. What I will tell you about the Real Madrid side of things, of course, is that I had a few conversations with some Spanish media who cover not just Real Madrid, but lots of clubs, because I tend to, if I speak to a Madrid-based reporter, there's a little bit of bias sometimes. But when I'm speaking more generally to Spanish reporters, I was basically told that when they get knocked out by any club in European competition, the propaganda machine starts up like crazy. The team that knocked them out, any players that, of course, might be linked with Real Madrid in even looser terms, suddenly they get linked heavily with a move to Real Madrid. I don't get it. It's probably an insecurity around Real Madrid. So I wouldn't necessarily worry too much about the Real Madrid factor right now. It's something to be obviously concerned about in the future. But if Arsenal can lock Saliba down to a brand new contract, that'd be great. David Ornstein reports, of course, that he wants to be reflected in terms of his wages, in terms of the importance he has in the team. And I don't think Arsenal would have any qualms in giving him well over £200,000 per week. That absolutely should be the bracket of pay that Saliba should be on at Arsenal. That is what he is worth. He should become one of our highest, if not the highest, potential paid player at the club if that's what we need to do, because we've got other contracts to sign later on. Gabriel, Saka, Martinelli, of course, as well, all potentially in contract talks also. They're going to be signing players in the summer that are also going to be put on big wages, we assume. So obviously, William Saliba's contract needs to reflect his stature, his importance in the group. And of course, it needs to try and tie him down for some of the most important years of his career at Arsenal. He's 24 years of age. If they sign him on to a 3-year extension, he's got 2 years remaining on his current deal. That would see him move until he's 29 potentially at Arsenal. So that for me is really, really key. If they can, if Saliba's contract, right? If Andrea Berta, the club, all the people involved in these talks can get Saliba to sign a new contract, that is as good as signing a £100 million player. To me, that's how important this deal is, because you aren't going to get as good of a player as William Saliba unless you're spending that kind of money on defenders. He is the best defender for me in the Premier League on the most consistent basis over the last 3 seasons. For me, he has been the most consistent defender in this team, period. He has been just that good for us. We need to get him signed up. We need to get him in this team on a regular occasion into the long-term future. And if we can do that, it is like signing a mega world-class player. So William Saliba, contract news, positive. The other main story that I want to talk with you this morning in this condensed, rapid show is, of course, Mikel Arteta's press conference, which took place yesterday. I was in attendance at the Shawber Realty Training Centre to hear from the Arsenal manager. A 1:30 kickoff that it was that we were doing the presser, and there were some really interesting bits of it, both in the live section and the embargo section. If you want to read through the full transcript of the live section, you can do so, of course, on the football.london website. We post a live transcription over there around half an hour after it has finished, so make sure that you've got that all wrapped up and in your hands, and you can do so, as I say, on the football.london website. He gave his reflections about, obviously, how they're feeling now. He says, I'm more settled. I think it was one of the saddest but one of the proudest moments that I've ever had as an Arsenal manager, for obvious reasons. Arsenal get into the semi-final is a big thing for him. It is a big thing for Arsenal. It is a proud moment to have got that far, to progress to that next step. It's gutting we didn't go that extra step, that next point forwards, but it is obviously a very good positive step in the right direction for Arsenal. The assessment of the match, he said that Arsenal were the best team over 2 legs and the best side in the Champions League. He was asked if he stood by those words which I had my issues with, let's say, in the post-match moment. He said 100%. I'm watching it back. I'm watching all the stats. Obviously, we have the best stats and the best goal difference in the semi-final. I don't know what he meant by that. I did double listen back to that about 3 times to check he did say goal difference. He did. I think it's just a little slip. I think he means goal. I think he's talking about XG there, not goal difference, because Arsenal didn't have the best goal difference. They had a -2 goal difference across both legs. He continues, but it's not about winning probability or what you've managed. It's actually making it happen and making it count. When you look at the important stats that normally give you the best platform to win football matches, it's crystal clear who was better. Look, football is won with goals. It's not one with stats. It's not one with XG. It's not one with shots. It's not done with shots on target. It's not with possession. Goals are won. Games are won with goals. Arsenal weren't clinical enough. Arsenal weren't good at finishing. 5 XG plus. He knows the numbers. Later on in the press conference, he brings up that XG. And I was a little surprised. It might have been in the second half, actually. But to be fair, he says, in terms of the chances created over the course of the 2 legs, the chances that you are unable to convert, does that highlight what needs to happen in the summer? And he says, yes, but that's very volatile. And regardless of players that you have, it happens. And nobody can predict when you're in the semi-final in Barcelona. If any of you could predict what was going to score, how Acerbi was going to score, it's impossible. It's the right back that I play with. He scored a goal. He has the best chance in the game. He missed it. The centre-back that is left-footed scored with his right foot there against us. Hakimi, he shouldn't be in the game the last 10 minutes of the first leg, and so he could not play in the second game and score when expected goals are 0.07. which is true, by the way. That Hakimi chance is 0.0. He knows these numbers off the top of his head. It's a lot of random things in football. It's clearly been bothering him. He knows these numbers. It's so evident that it's clearly an issue for him. And, you know, being in a position whereby you've seen a player who I felt was lucky to escape a second yellow card, Hakimi, in the first leg for stopping Martinelli entering the box when already booked. I think that was a second yellow card and he wasn't punished for it. And he would have therefore missed the second leg, but they would have had other players, you know, to come in still. I think they would have been all right. They've still been the better team across the two legs. Now, even with all the stats, all the XG, yes, we had a good game, and I'm not annoyed about our performance in the second leg at all, other than the finishing. I thought we gave it a real good go. I thought the tactics were spot on, and I thought ultimately we deserved more than we got, but we didn't finish our chances, and you have to own that. And transfers took a real kind of dominance of this press conference. It was a big part of this press conference was the chances and the striker talk in particular. And so that, I think, was the next key theme that we need to discuss. Let me just find it here. And on trophies as well. Trophies was a big thing. Let me find it. Let me scroll down a little bit. So Ian from TalkSport was basically asking about, have you sat down to kind of talk about transfers? He said, so next season is all about recruitment in the summer. Have you already sat down and absolutely put on the table the players that you want to see coming through the door? Arteta said it's about this season because it's not finished. We still have 3 games to play. And Ian replied saying, but you can't wait until the end of the season and then pick the players that you want to go back in. And Arteta said, no, but if we're having those meetings now, we are very late. As in, if I said to you that we haven't had those conversations yet, obviously it would be very late. So he was hinting there that, yes, all the conversations around the summer transfers have indeed happened. We move to a question that I actually put in, which was about... I asked him about the 16 years that it's been. I said, it's almost been 16 years since Arsenal were last in a semi-final. And obviously fans don't think that you will, you know, fans will not be wanting to wait another 16 years for another semi-final. What do you think you could say to the fans so that it would be encouraged that the wait next time will be much shorter and maybe to go even further? Arteta said, I thank them for their support, for their belief, for their energy, and the way they have supported and been around, in and around the team. It's been a great journey, a journey that we want to take further to end up winning it, and we weren't able to do it. Everybody will have to lift the standards, improve, and we know the margin will be very small and very short again, and I feel that we can do it. That's it. I was hoping he might say something along the lines of, you know, we're going to go into next season better prepared. We don't want to be as short as we were. Because again, he was asked a question about transfers and spoke about how short he was. And then he had a really interesting exchange with James Ollie from ESPN. And James asked a really good question, which was, Salah's probably going to finish top scorer. He's 5 clear with 3 games left. It would be the 3rd consecutive year that the top goal scorer has played in the team that won the league. Do you think that you need someone, whether that's internally or externally, to get you 25 goals in to win the title? And he said, yeah, I would look more broadly. I think if you score over 90 goals, you have a high probability of winning the Premier League. It doesn't guarantee you, but you have a high probability if your defensive record is good as well and very dependable as well, against who and in which moment this striker, this winger in this case, has scored the goals and how many points he is contributing with goals as well, which didn't really answer the question. And so James went back and said, I'm sure you know externally the fans want to see a new striker or a new forward, or you want to add another attacking player. But from the way that you talk, it doesn't sound like you feel that is necessarily the answer, that you have to go into the market no matter what. And Arteta got his back up a little bit and was like, do I have to make it more clear? In January, was it not clear? As in, what he said in January, was that not clear? And that obviously is relating to what he said in January, where he was basically like, you know, I know we're short. We want to try and do something. We want something. Effectively saying here that, yes, I do want something. I've said I want something. And James is like, well, you tell me. And Arteta said, no, what I told you, because you were in the room, I think, many times, and it was very clear, the statement. The statement continues the same. Now, what James said next I thought was excellent, because he really summed up kind of how we thought, which was, I thought the statement in January was you wanted the change, and the truth is you didn't. As in, you didn't bring anybody in. If the statement is you want somebody and then don't bring anybody in, what does that say to us? What does that say to the media? What does that say to fans? Because that says that while you have this statement of we want this and then you don't go and do it, that tells us that we can't necessarily rely on the statement being the reality in the end. And Arteta got a little bit sarky here, I would say, and was like, I want the best team, the best player. If we have 3 goal scorers over 25, bring them in. We're going to be a much better team. And I don't think it landed very well. I can't really portray it saying these words. You need to go back and watch the live press conference of that. But again, it was like, yeah, it just wasn't great for me. I didn't feel great sitting there and watching that exchange. I thought James held his own very well. But yeah, it was a bit odd. Simon then said, just on the goal scorers, are they the hardest players to find and buy in the current market? And Arteta said, probably there are, because there's not that many that put in those numbers. It's something that's in the start. There's not that many in the Premier League. I will try to improve, but certainly improve the ones that we have right now, and love the ones that we have right now, especially after losing. It's too easy to just go look elsewhere and don't use the moment to judge players, especially because I was asked a lot of questions about certain players in this room, always in certain moments, but when other players have outperformed other players that we were discussing, I have 0 questions in the last 11 months. It's relative to the context, the moment, and the narrative that you want to generate. I understand that. And again, I don't agree here with Arteta that this idea about asking questions, because obviously I think there's a hint there, and I might be wrong, but I'm taking it as he said it because he's been very broad. I think he's here hinting at players like Kai Havertz, hinting at players like, I don't know, Mikel Marino potentially as well playing. And from a personal point of view, having been in that room, I know that he's been asked questions about Kai Havertz in the really good moments where he's in good form. I know he's been asked about Mikel Marino when he's been in good form, because I've asked those questions myself. So I don't really get that, to be honest, because I think he has been asked questions about players when they're doing good. He's not just asked about strikers and transfers when things aren't going well. He is asked about players that are playing really well. Miles, Ethan, there's been a lot of talk about those two in particular, about how well of a season they have had, about how good they've been. Declan Rice has been asked about loads of times because of how impressive he is. So, again, I don't agree with kind of this answer around the questions. I'm not just getting my own backup because I'm one of the people that was in that room. I just personally think that he has been asked about players that have been good in good moments and when they have outperformed players, because I know myself, I've asked about Marino. I've asked about Havertz. As somebody who's been a big fan of their performances, I've wanted to ask about those players. I've wanted that to come to the fore. So for that then to be said that they've not been asked was a little bit of a kick in the teeth. I'm not going to lie. But that's just it. He's under pressure. He's obviously frustrated. Obviously, when you get asked questions about, and you yourself are looking at things and you're thinking, I know that I've got a team that is already good enough to get 90 plus goals and 90 plus potential points, because they did it last season. And obviously without injuries this season, I think they would have done it again. But we need more. And not only that, but the summer was disappointing. The January window was disappointing. So I think there is reason for question marks, Just going quickly back to my second question, because my second question was about trophies. I said, over these last 5 years, I don't think there's any doubt in the progress the club has made to be in the position at the latter stages of tournaments that they are. But when you see a club like Manchester United, for example, whose average league position compared to Arsenal's last 5 seasons is much lower, but they've been in 5 finals in 5 years, picked up 2 trophies and potentially could get a third this season, how do you view that when you judge between success in different teams? And he just said, I don't judge that. And there are 2 words, success and failure. They are not part of my vocabulary. Now, if you were to take that literally, which I don't think you should in this case, I think you should look at it more broadly. What he's talking about here is the spectrum of what is success and failure. If one team finishes 16th but wins a trophy, is that success? It depends upon the subjective opinion, doesn't it? From an Arsenal point of view, he feels, having progressed them into a Champions League final for the first time in 16 years, that's progress. That's moving towards. And I've talked to you about being on that pathway, being on the right track. And I still feel that Arsenal very much still are on the right track. And it's been things beyond their control that have sadly really curtailed and uprooted their season. But there are things within our control also that are not good at the moment and that haven't been successes. And I think there have been failures. I think January was an absolute failure of a transfer window. Yes, there's context with no Edu, no Andrea Berta at that point, and an interim sporting director. But you still, I think, have to look internally and think, if one person is the difference between signing anybody and nobody, And also, of course, if you've put somebody like Jason Nato into that position and then you've replaced him, obviously, therefore, you think that wasn't necessarily the right choice of person to an extent in that period or to take Arsenal forward. So, look, I think that there are successes, there are failures. They are words I personally do use in my vocabulary, even though Mikel Arteta may not. But I thought it was a good opportunity to talk about, the progress that Arsenal have made domestically. And yes, it's frustrating to not reach those finals, but to talk about the aims and the ambition to reach them, and maybe that was missed in his answer. But again, it's only my interpretation. What else can I really say on that? So yeah, there was one more thing I want to talk about because I know a lot of you have been asking this question. He was asked by Art de Rocher, can I just ask about one of the players you do have in Ethan Nwaneri, because I've noticed in the last couple of weeks in the Premier League he's not featured as much. So I was just wondering, is there a reason for that? And Arteta said there are moments and players are used more and less, and he's played a lot. He's played probably more than anybody expected, for sure. And in the last few games, it's been because of the games and the context. We decided not to play him that much. It can change very quickly. I think Nwaneri could have played more minutes recently, but I do think he is right. Nwaneri's played over 30 games this season, got over 30 appearances at 18 years of age in a Premier League level club, in the Champions League, in the Premier League, all together, all competitions. He's played a lot more minutes, I think, maybe than people thought, a lot more appearances than people thought. Yes, he could have played more recently, but he's 18. Let's chill out on that. I think that's a completely fair answer, but yeah. And so that was the presser, and that's kind of everything to discuss today. I'm curious to what your thoughts are on what my thoughts have been. I'm curious as to how you're feeling about that news about Saliba. Obviously, leave all your thoughts in the comment section below as well. Yesterday, of course, we got into a little bit of a long show. We talked a lot about fandom. We talked about the idea behind why you support Arsenal. There was obviously a little bit of debate going on after the show. I will say, just for the record, if you do quote what I say, or if you've got an issue with something I've said in the chat, please quote me correctly. Please do represent what I've said with the context that I've said it. I had people turn around to me yesterday, or to be fair, just one person turned around and saying that I have no respect for fans who chose to support Arsenal because they won things. My words were many times, I find it hard to have respect for that reason to support a team. It's not about the person. It's just the reason. It's very different to say you don't respect somebody and then, of course, not respecting the reason why as much, and not completely. I struggle to have, much respect for the reason behind that. And I just wanted to clarify that, because I know that people want to tear things down. I know people want to troll, and I know people want to do this and that. But it's really important to say that. And I stand by those comments. Effectively, I saw a comment that was left at the end of yesterday or after the show, which was basically along the lines of, when did it become controversial to be critical of glory hunting? And I thought that was a really good comment. So thank you to the person that left that, because I thought it was spot on, basically. Anyway, that rounds off a little bit of admin at the end of the show, but I hope you've appreciated the effort that's gone into recording this and putting this out this morning. I've got to go off and have a very busy day today, and I didn't want to leave you without a show. So if you could drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, I'd really appreciate that. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy, respectful, and as always, up the Arsenal.